Hello and welcome back. This is the chassis from the tender of my Lima Crab. It's the only other Lima locomotive I have. We saw the Deltic in a much earlier video last year, and this is another one that my son chose off the second-hand shelf at the model railway shop. So I've just been making some adjustments to it. Let's have a quick look over this. It's been quite heavily weathered. We'll have a look at the main part of the model in a moment. It does have traction tyres on it. They're the original ones that came with it when I got it. They're a bit thin. I'm hoping they're going to last. Motor's running quite smoothly. It's just needed a little bit of light lubrication. And I've been also making some steps for the model. And I have to admit that when I purchased the model quite some time ago, I hadn't realised it should have front steps on it. If you have a look at the pictures here, you'll see that the chassis there, and it has no steps. But I've gone ahead and made some 3D steps for it, just from pictures. I don't have any to copy or take measurements from. So these ones sat too far forward, and this one I haven't actually tried on the model yet, but it was a variation based on the one that's actually sitting on the model at the moment. But I've become more happy, or happier, better English, with the ones which are on the model at the moment. They're only just tacked on. So here is the main part of the locomotive. I believe originally it took its power through the drawbar, but somebody's wired it, put a hard wire across it. I imagine that connection on the back may well have been a little bit unreliable, and indeed the drawbar, let me grab the tender, seems to be something of a replacement. It looks like a piece of plastic has been cut to do the job there. But the chassis, sorry, not frashy, the chassis is lovely and free rolling. But if you see the wheels and the valve gear, and the whole model indeed I think has been relatively well weathered. So there are the steps I have on at the moment. So I'm thinking that judging by the pictures of other models I've seen, they're sitting roughly in the right place, and they don't foul the wheels or the bodywork when going around the corners. I believe it's been renumbered. I think the Lima Crab originally came along in 1980. Let's just pick this up and we'll take it over to the bench and have a better look over here. I think it was originally model 205-120. Actually, let's sit down. This is going to be far better than doing this handheld. So if we just have a look at it, I believe it's been renumbered. You can see all the numbers on separate little pieces of I don't know, little backing paper that's been applied there. See quite a bit of detail there between the wheels. Valve gear seems to run really quite nicely. I'm not sure if there are any parts missing from the main part of the model here, but on the tender, which we'll see in a moment, let's see if we can get rid of this bright red cable. The tender has some parts missing. Whoops. There we go. So I told you they were only just tacked on, so those are the ones which we just had on there. So I think I'm going to tack those on a little bit more securely. So quite a lovely looking thing. All this sort of lovely pipework and stuff down the sides of it. Loads of riveting across the top here. This is all plastic. It's not metal. I don't think it's separately fitted. But, quite a pretty thing. We did give it a good playing with when my son was interested in the model railways, and I believe that on the original model, the part would have just been screwed into the front bogie there, so it moved with the bogie rather than staying fixed to the chassis. I imagine that was probably necessary, as on what I see on the prototype, that the steps are very, very close to the front end there, and that probably wouldn't have allowed the wheels to move when converting this to a model. If we try and have a look in the back here, see if we can get that great cable out of the way. We can see we do have some cab detail. 2 holes on the bottom of the footplate there. I don't know whether they're original or not, but the wire that runs through there seems to be a later addition. The pickups, I'm probably pointing at the wrong side, are quite high up on the backs of the wheels, either one side or the other. I'm not sure which side I'm currently pointing at. But I think what we'll do is just have a swift look over the remains of the tender. Let's see if we can get that. So there's a couple of very heavy weights in it. Let's see if we can pick that up without causing any further damage. Again, excuse the creaky chair, so nice heavy weights, giving it plenty of pulling power. It seems to pull quite well. There is, I think there's a winding handle that's missing there. I have to admit, I don't remember whether it was on the model when we acquired it, but I don't know whether the lining there is original, whether that's been slightly adjusted. I believe it should have probably clipped onto the metal base of the chassis, but it seems to have been glued in place at some point. If you look at the bottom of it there, it seems to have been tacked in over time. Let's see if we can just grab the other pieces here. So we've got the motor there, nice sort of Ringfield style motor. Let's just grab these other two pieces that I've made and see, have a quick look at them. Sorry, I'm not pointing at anything in particular there. So these are just 3D printed. They're in 3 parts to print a bit that size. Would probably create more problems than gluing the 3 parts together. I'm going to say that one sat a little bit too far forward, but I think we'll get this assembled in a moment and then have a look at the whole thing running. I think we'll dig out a little bit of freight for it. So we haven't had any freight or very much freight running on the railway since we've had this new track down, so I think it'd be good to have a look. So the motor's fairly tidy, always has run fairly strongly, quite heavy metal. Quite a good weight to it there, even without those additional lead weights in the tender. But yeah, it's all fairly good stuff. There, I've just got that wire, the additional wire that's been added back onto the pickup on the tender. And I thought we'd just have a quick look at that before I get it on the layout. Let's just have a quick look over the top here. You can see those how those weights fit into the chassis there, leaving room for the drive gears and so on. So it is now really quite a heavy old thing once that's together like that. And I decided to go for the revised steps on there. So I think they're close enough for my purposes. They might not be as the original model, but they're reasonably close. So I have been sort of preparing some of the more of these switches. Somebody was asking how the wires are held into the switches. So I've decided to just solder mine in rather than relying on those little pins you push in, because they do tend to fall out. Most of the switches I've got on the layout at the moment were pre-wired for the previous layout, so I just carried those over, but I've used all of those up now. I also had to replace a couple of broken switches which have become very unreliable. So here's one that hasn't been converted yet. See how you do get quite a build-up in here that needs cleaning from time to time, so I don't re-glue them back together once I've snapped them apart. They do come apart reasonably readily with a bit of perseverance, and they just need a little bit of cleaning, and they're much more reliable that way. So what I'm planning on is a couple of extra sidings. I know I've spoken about it before in this area here. We'll just get them to run here so we can have a bit of freight on the railway, which is what we're going to have a look at today. just stop that before we run out of sidings. Now, I think we'll just uncouple the locomotive and have a quick look over the wagons. Let's see if we can do all this one-handed. So we've got these Arnold Sands wagons here. Now these came in the group of wagons that Bob Impott sent to me very kindly last year. I don't know whether you remember the video, he'd sent me some interesting variations on the UK wagons made to look like possible variations of Australian rolling stock. Let's see if we can roll that forward a little now. Might as well just take this back out, I think. She's not as happy on the point work as she could be, so I think we'll just close number 1R while we're at it. I have renumbered and ordered quite a lot of the points over the last week or so, but I think that's probably for another day. Let's have a swift look over these wagons. So grab my notes as well on this box, and we'll get the uncoupler here. So I said Bob Impott kindly sent me a whole bunch of wagons, and these are some of them that we hadn't got around to running. Arnold Sands, the Arnold Sands wagon, I think first appeared in 77. It may have been more of this maroon colour than the grey ones either side of it. So I think there were a number of variations over the years, and this is model number R.16A. Definitely got the silver seal wheels. And it does have the plastic D shape on the couplings rather than the metal one. And I think later on in 1980 it became model 717, possibly gaining a paint finish like many things did in 1980. So that's definitely a self-coloured plastic one. So are these grey ones, so I think these are probably pre-1980. Again, the grey ones have the single moulded plastic wheels, no metal tyre on them, so they're not quite as smooth running as the maroon one. Sorry, I'm lost for words there. See that lovely wood effect, wood grain printed into the plastic there. I think that's quite nice. So I think they made a few of these over the years. So let's just pop those up there. I think these are featured in loads of sets as well, and possibly were made as unprinted wagons. So with no owner name on the side. So let's just unhook this Pugh & Co. and the following one. So if you notice there's a difference between these two, the two outside ones and the middle one, there's a difference. So this centre one here has a black plank at the bottom just before the chassis. Let's put these two side by side. You see that slight difference in there. So a slight variation in a very short run, I think. These were made made by Hornby for the dealers to give away when customers bought locomotives. So I don't know what value of locomotive you had to buy to qualify for this freebie, but still quite a nice thing to get. Perhaps an incentive to buy a slightly more expensive model than you might have done. And they came in this lovely little white box. Let's just grab that. So completely different to boxes of the time, almost plain white with red printing on. Probably very, very cheap to produce. And I think the wagon was an old mould that they stopped using back in the mid-70s, one that was developed perhaps in the 60s. So it's just brought back as a very cheap option. So I think model R010, not quite sure on the numbers of those made. So I think they probably made a few to try and entice customers to spend a bit more money. So definitely a paint finish. So black on the inside, nice paintwork on it. So let's pop those down. I suppose we should leave these on the rails really, shouldn't we? Struggling to do that while looking through the camera. It is always a challenge getting your focus in two different places at once. There we go, looks a little better. I'll take out the decoupler, and then we've got the quite a long running wagon. I think these showed up in 67. This one's got silver seal wheels. I think it comes from the mid-70s, so I think they started life as R.16A, number of model numbers over the years. I think they came with grey roofs as well. It was R.16 and R.218, and possibly ending up as 729 in a painted finish in the 80s perhaps. I think quite a long-running item. Definitely showed up in a few sets, I think. Possibly may still be in production, not quite sure. So we'll hook that lot up. Now I think what we should do is grab some coaches which are at the station with the locomotive, but let's just have a swift look. I forgot to mention while showing you the things on the bench earlier in the video that I'd gone ahead and got the shelving underway over the last weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to get the camera mounted on there and shoot down, so I was quite pleased to get that done. As I say, I've been numbering and reordering the point work, so I think this one was either 9 or 10, it's now 2G, and it's become a little easier for me to find my way around, just learning how it works and grouping things in a logical order for me, not necessarily prototypical for railways, but just something that works for me when I'm shuffling around the trains on the track. But let's see if we can move this back through the point work, and we'll go and collect those very bright coaches sitting at the station. So I think if we open 2B and 1B, so let's point in the right direction, so that's 1B out there on the main line, and 2B is the crossover there. I originally had that on 2 switches, not quite sure why I'd got that on 2 switches, but I did, so saved to switch. As I said, I've had to upgrade a number of them because they've just gone beyond reconditioning or reprofiling the slot in them. She's definitely a little bumpy on the point work. So let's close 1 and 2 there. And then we're going to need to open up 8R. I think we're just going to have a wander around and look how it's set at the station. So there is the bright coaches. There's LMS coaches sitting with that great looking Ginty. Yeah, I think I've got the curve points set correctly, that's set correctly, that's set correctly. And I've just opened up the point into that long run approach into the station there. So provided she doesn't jump the rails as we back through the points, I think we're in business. So let's see if we can follow her around. So just excuse the wobble on the camera while I change hands. So let's give this a little power. See how she does with the curved point. Yeah. She didn't like that, did she? So I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to reach over the coal station here. Which wheel we've got? It's the front bogie. I can see it from here. We should be able to take care of that. There we go. I think we have that. So let's see if we can resume. So I've had this model for quite some time, but never really run it. So it's not probably sorted out as well as it could be. Keep it slow as we approach the coaches. There we go, I think we have those. So let's see if we can pull her out of the station. Very bright, aren't they? Definitely Hornby's bright period when these coaches were new in the shops, I think. I think we'll stop that one there and we'll just sort out the points before we get carried away. There we go, I think a circuit of the outside line and then perhaps the up and over. Let's see if we can increase the zoom a little. So, trouble is when you do this, the shots become that little bit more wobbly. So let's see how we do with this. So once she's underway, she's quite smooth, but she does jump into life a little sometimes. And then we'll just bring her to a stop before the points again. There we go, and then let's fiddle with the switches again and see if we can get her up and over. So that one, and then we want 3G, and the one right in the far distance that we can't probably see, so we can drop off the elevated section. There we go, so theoretically that's all good to go. So let's open the power and see how we go again. So we've firstly got to deal with all of this point work. I don't think she's going to have any trouble with these three coaches. She's quite powerful. And as we saw earlier, she's very heavy, got a lot of weight in that tender. I don't think there's any wheel slip there at all. It's just slowing down because it's climbing. There you go, she's picking up the power. I think we're probably going to have to intervene on the downward section to slow it down a little. Yeah, we need to take some power out of that. See how she does slowly across this diamond. Not too bad. So I think we'll just bring her around and bring her to a gentle stop just before the points. And there we go. Thanks again for watching. It really is hugely appreciated. If you look back again next time, we'll try and have something else interesting to look at. Goodbye now.